Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and coming to hang out with me. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when I am posting videos. Okay, right now the world is funky, and I am a handbag carrying lady. I love a handbag. I love a clutch. I don't know why, because I don't really like to carry people's stuff like the kids like carry your own stuff. But for whatever reason, I like handbags and I like clutches. Not right now. I do not want to put my purse down anywhere. I don't want it. I'm just uncomfortable everywhere I go. So I decided to make the call me. What? Again, there's a project by Annie. That's by Annie. That's the name of her company. By Annie. And there are some things that I don't know how to do. There are some things that I'm not familiar with. One of which is inserting a zipper. I'm like, how do you do? I was terrified of zippers. I'm like, I'm not doing a project with a zipper for what? I did it. This was it. And guess what? My zipper is so in there. Like it's in there. I feel so comfortable working with zippers. She's got a whole series called Zippers Are Easy. And she's right. They're easy. This is not a big thing. You don't have to be scared. But I'm also one of those people who will watch a video 10 times. I'll keep it playing in the background so that when it's time for me to actually do my project, I feel pretty comfortable with trying it. But again, the world is gross. So what this is it is basically something for me to throw my card, some cash, my cell phone goes back here, and I can roll. Clip my keys on here, throw my keys in my pocket, and I can roll. I don't have to worry about touching stuff. I can jump out of the way if somebody wants to impede my space, because 6 feet, I don't think people really understand what 6 feet means, guys. I'm just way more comfortable. This is great for conventions. Like back in the day, I would have loved to have had this for a convention. I always make sure I wear jeans, and I would usually just kind of stick my card and cash with me and my keys. But now I can have a place to put my phone, which is ginormous. Like I have a good 20, what is that? The Note 20. It's a good size phone. And now I can just stick it in here, card, maybe a badge here. I love this thing. It is beginner friendly. It didn't get funky until I started trying to alter things, and I did. I tried to alter it because I wanted a finished edge on my the neck wrap, the binding here. I didn't want the ends out, so I did some alterations. Nobody told me to do that. It went a little left, but it was salvageable. I'm still totally gonna rock this. It looks great, like right here. But then, so it's like quarter folded, like all four folded here, and then all of a sudden it's folded in half up here. And yes, like it gets a little funky. I am not shamed. I am not, it does not stop the show. Love the fabrics that I've chosen. You guys know that this is my style all day long. I suggest everybody make one of these, especially if you're scared to like make a zipper or work with vinyl. I've never worked with vinyl before. I had never worked with mesh. I'd never worked with elastic. This is the perfect beginner project if these are things and skills that you want to learn and get more comfortable with. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Keep watching and watch me struggle through this. But hey, it totally came out. The turn, you know, it worked out pretty well. My top stitching is decent here. I played with a new foot, that blind hem stitch foot. Worked pretty good. All right, guys, thanks again so much for joining me, and keep watching. Bye-bye. All right, so here you're watching me think through my color scheme. I knew that I wanted an ombre. I knew that I wanted a rainbow. But because the first one repeats from salvage to salvage, I was like, I'm not going to be able to get enough of the rainbow in this tiny space. I hope that makes sense. I stared at it for a while. I had it all in my mind that I was going to use that ombre rainbow fabric, but luckily I had that heart fabric around too. So this is Pellon. No, that's wrong. This is actually Soft and Stable. It came the same day, and I was like, oh, okay, perfect. Let's try it. Soft and Stable is soft and stable. It's thinner than the Pellon Foam Flex. Foam Flex also works. I used it with a couple other projects, but finally I get to test by Annie's Soft and Stable to see how it compares. And it's thinner and moves a lot more. It's just less stable, if that makes sense. So for a project this small, you really don't have to spray baste it, although going forward, all projects I use Soft and Stable or Pellon Shape Flex with, I will be spray basting or basting better than I did because it will yield better results. So I'm cutting the strips according to the pattern, which you see over there to the right. But I'm thinking about it and I'm like, well, the bindings, I want several different colors to show. So I need to kind of fussy cut this. So I'm being particular about where I'm cutting into this strip so that I get more of one color or less of another color. So here I'm going to get some yellows or some greens because I've got to fold it in half. So I really kind of thought it through on here. I'm like, right here, I want blues and purples and the reds, or I don't know what I was thinking, but I guess I wanted blues and purples here. So again, you've got to think it through, but remember you're going to fold it. Now here's where I botched the binding. I was not paying attention. You want to check the cutting measurements twice because I did not do that right at all. But I'm going ahead and I'm doing my method for bias binding. And I'm thinking that through too because I want to be sure that I get the whole rainbow on that strap. Now we're doing some vinyl. This is not vinyl by Annie. Going forward, I'll probably buy by Annie's vinyl because it comes with tissue paper on the other side. And that would have been helpful for sewing with it, for seeing it, because you can lose this vinyl. It's pretty darn clear. It's a thick quilting vinyl, so I didn't have any problems with it being perforated or, the sewing messing it up or anything like that. But I would have loved to have had a tissue paper backing on there. Now, here's the fun part. This is the first time I play with the zipper, and I didn't even get it on camera. I hate that. But I was able to prep the zipper, no problem. Basically, you mark it, you move your little slide where you mark it, then you sew on the other side you mark it, then you move it, then you sew, then you cut. There you go. Mark it, move it, sew, then cut. And it wasn't difficult. Once I figured out that she pushed this back, you really do need to sew with her zippers a generous 1/4 inch seam. I did not do that initially, so I had to seam rip. And your first zipper, I suggest doing it black with black thread because it's very forgiving. It hides all your boo-boos. Now, you might want to be careful if the fabric that you're using will show up a bunch of your black, but I cut initially a 6.5 piece of fold over elastic here, and they talk about it shrinks, so hit it with some steam. It shrunk 1 inch just about. It shrunk a lot. So just kind of beware of that. And to make it easier to sew, because you just fold it over, train it first. Turn it over, fold it, and run your fingers along it a few times so that it wants to stay closed. But other than that, no issue sewing through mesh. That was fun. And as I am sewing more and more, I realize that clipping your threads as you go is smart. So I kind of clean it up quite a bit so that at the end, there's not a lot of cleanup to do. Now I'm marking with the friction pen. That is my favorite way to mark fabric. However, it doesn't always show up with all these crazy fabrics that I use because most of my fabrics are black and white. So I end up having to use chalk and a friction pen, which is kind of annoying. And so you sew a line. I sew down that vinyl. You can't see it because that vinyl is very clear. But it didn't dawn on me that you're going to be able to see that black line through the back. But whatever. No worries. You actually end up getting 2 black lines in the back. Mine happen to be pretty straight. Isn't that cool how you just cut a zipper with a rotary cutter? Never knew that you could do that. Again, this is my first time ever working with a zipper, and I chose the world's smallest project to use to install the zipper just in case I got super frustrated with it. Now I'm marking another line so I can know where to put this mesh. I like that her pattern allows for the mesh to really hang over the sides because you need that. This stuff is weird. It's stretchy. It's not difficult to work with, but it is different than regular fabric. It moves differently. It sews differently, but not anything that you can't handle. It's like sewing kind of through air, sort of, because it's all that air space between the little holes. So, and you need to really be careful about which direction stretches too. All right, so these little these little circle rulers by Creative Grids. I just happened to have purchased them before I started all this, and I am so thankful to have them. There is no way in the world that I would want to curve any of these edges with just paper, because the way that I hold it, I've got my fingers will be cut off for sure. Those are the greatest little things. What I end up doing is tracing a line. Then I actually sew on that line because I can't sew an eighth away from anything. So I sew on that line just about, and then I move the ruler up a little bit, and then that's how I cut. So I'm testing my binding. Her pattern calls for the binding to show raw edges on the strap, and I didn't want that. I was like, I don't want raw edges. So of course, I thought I was going to figure out a way not to do that. So my thought was to take the binding strip, fold it in half, then fold it in half again, and then sew like you regularly would, and then just flip it over. All the math should work out, right? And it did work out to a certain degree. So I folded it in half, and then I sewed the way that you regularly would, and then rolled it over. That part worked. The issue got to the strap. What happens is when you do this, there's like a little roll over that I didn't account for. What I should have done was just put the right sides together, but I was trying to get like a tight rope around the binding, and that was a fail. I should have, at some point, it just ended up being put in half. It was tight at first, like right here, this all worked out swimmingly, no issues. And I was like, oh, I'll just walk it all the way up. You fold in and then bring the other side all the way over to meet that fold. So it's basically folding in thirds. And I'm walking my way up there, but at some point, something went wrong. And it ended up just being folded in half, which isn't super tight. It doesn't feel like a rope. It feels like fabric kind of folded in half, but it's still pretty. You can't tell unless you're up close and all in my business. And if you are judging my call me bag like that, you're not my friend. So right here, it's working out perfect. You see how tight that is and little? By the time I finish, again, it's folded in half. There are no exposed edges though. So that was a win. But yeah, the way that I joined it was on the diagonal. There was enough room for me to really work with this. So look, I just joined it on the diagonal. They were already cut for me, and bam. So then I start walking my little fingers up and clipping, and I thought I just had it. I'm like, this is going to go great. I'm going to zip around with a top stitch. And so right here, it worked out at the top, but like, look at the back. You can see that the back strap is a lot thicker than the straps that are closest to the bag. Not a big deal. Maybe it'll prevent more cushion for my neck. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.